I got friends only wanna talk business. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I got expensive, cause winning's expensive. I've been reading all the war, and I've been shutting down the stars.
And welcome to this episode of Put That Coffee Down, the freight sales show for closers. My name is Kevin Hill, and we are going to spend the next 26 minutes talking about freight sales and about closing deals and about starting businesses in the height of the pandemic. I have a special guest coming on in just a few minutes, Tom Grandy. He's the founder of Veteri up in Ontario, Canada. We're going to talk a little bit about Crossborder Freight as well and see what the sales cycle and the sales process is. It's a little bit different for cross-border freight than it is for, say, regular freight, dry van freight going from Chicago to Atlanta. That's how I became a broker, or kind of my first job as a broker. I did a lot of cross-border stuff in and out of Canada, in and out of Mexico, and it's a little bit different. It's a nice little niche, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But first, I'm going to start talking about a couple of articles from Inc. magazine that I've perused over the last week, and a couple of them are, they are very interesting, very good advice, really. And the first one is a coverage of a Harvard, I think it was a Harvard study, talking about how to be more likable. And as salespeople, we want to be more likable. And there's one thing you can do to make yourself much more likable, and that is ask questions, ask follow-up questions. People like to talk about themselves. So if you want to be more likable, you actually speak less about yourself, less about your opinions, less about your interjections. Think about that less and think more about just asking follow-up questions. Question after question, please explain more. Get people to open up and talk. And that makes you much more likable than droning on and on about yourself. So let other people drone on and on about themselves. You become more likable. If you drone on and on about yourself, then unless someone's asking you questions, then you become, I guess, less likable in a lot of ways. And the second one here is a really interesting one about skill and talent. And we talk about that a lot. Saw that in Super Bowl, skill versus talent, and definitions of that. And I find it makes a lot of sense, right? So skill is something that's learnable. And skill is something that is learnable. Talent is just the rate at which you can acquire a particular skill. So some people pick up skills a little bit faster than others, depending on the situation. So for some people, they might lack a little talent in math, so it takes them longer to pick that up. But you can always acquire those skills. Maybe not at the heights and levels of a pro athlete or a mathematician or an engineer, but there is always room to grow. So I just found those two articles very interesting. You can go to Inc. magazine and check those out. The first one was New Cognitive Research shows gaining knowledge and achieving mastery comes down to the rule of 7. While talent matters, the good news is we all learn at basically the same rate and can learn anything we want. So if you want to go out and learn a new skill, maybe a sales skill, then you can learn it. You don't have to be a talented, natural-born salesperson. I don't think that those even exist. You learn your craft, do your education, do your reading, do your practice, do your role-playing, and you can acquire those new skills to close more deals, make more money, and have a more enjoyable life, really. The more successful you are, the more enjoyable life is on many levels. So that's my reading that I did this week that I'm going to share with you before we bring in Tom Grandy. He's the founder and general manager over at Veteri, and we are going to talk about sales Canadian style. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So let's start out with a little bit about Veteri and what the name really means.
Well, the name itself, I have an Italian wife, and her mother is actually from Italy, and Veteri means carrier in Italian. So that's kind of where we got the name from on that.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That's cool. I would have never have guessed that whatsoever, that Veteri means carrier in Italian, and that's how the name came about.
Yeah. So a little interesting backstory on that one.
Yeah. And you're located in Ontario, is it around the Toronto area? Do I have that right?
So we're located in London, Ontario, which is basically right in the center between Detroit and Toronto. So we're 2 hours either way.
Cool. Yeah. So two of the major crossings right there.
Yeah. So Buffalo, Detroit, and then obviously the Toronto area is a big market for us.
Yeah. So, and you started Veteri when, May 2020?
So yeah, it was May of 2020, essentially right in the height of the pandemic. I was previously working with another 3PL. And I'd seen opportunities inside the market, and I had worked with C.H. Robinson years ago as well, and then was working in a manufacturing environment, handling the transportation, and just by handling the logistics myself and seeing all the service failures that were coming by and whatnot, I really thought there was an opportunity in the marketplace for someone like us that could step in and kind of put an end to all the service failures, mainly the communication, things of that nature, while things are in transit, proper updates. So I just saw a good opportunity for us to jump into the market.
Yeah, it's we always talk about, walking a mile in someone else's shoes, and I was kind of a hybrid shipper position about halfway through my brokerage career, and then I started selling to freight brokers, which I've done that job in the past, and it gives you a whole new perspective and this in-depth knowledge of how the system works, and I think it improves the sales game so much. You see people who start off in one industry and then they flip to selling to that same industry, and it just gives you it gives you a leg up on experience and the skills you need to really go out and communicate with that group of prospects or clients.
Yeah, I think it definitely gives you an upper hand when you have the opportunity to have worked inside another industry. Kind of, you've seen how the day-to-day operations work. You've been on the plant floor. You've talked to your shippers and receivers. You find out all the different pain points from just how they deal with the trucks coming in and out all day long. And you're not just hearing it third hand or what have you. So it definitely, I think, helped me put in perspective what is most important to shippers. And I think that a lot of the companies that we do work with, especially manufacturers, appreciate the fact that, I do have firsthand knowledge being in their position. And, I think that it's really helped us in regards to developing long lasting relationships with these manufacturers.
Yeah, I think one of the most awkward questions, what are your pain points? What keeps you up at night? Trying to define and discover those. You can probably pick those. If you've been in that seat long enough, you can switch sides or flip positions, right? And just by the tone of conversation and maybe little clues in words or phrases, or just walking, if you have the chance to walk through the floor and see the operations, you can probably identify a lot of those pain points and go in that way, because they become obvious because you've been in that position, that general process of how a manufacturer works, and you can basically guess it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that, when we're meeting with prospects, they do appreciate the fact that, we do have firsthand knowledge. And like I said, I think it does, give us a leg up on the competition. Being able to see it firsthand and really understand what the pain points are, and not just in manufacturing, but all types of industries, whether you're a distributor, or you work in retail, anything like that. So it definitely helps us, and it helps create an urgency with our team, just knowing exactly what they are going through. So it's not, we're not just, and we do often ask our customers, to pop in and meet with them and then have plant tours, that kind of thing, and get to know the actual shippers and receivers. And it shows, how much we care about their business and that we want to do right by them.
Yeah, so it shows you care, you want to do right. Whenever you really got the idea of, I'm going to go out my own, I'm going to start my own brokerage, what was the one core idea or big idea, or the one problem they're like, I can solve this, what am I doing here? I can go out and solve this right now, that real core theme. What was that?
I would say so when I was working at the manufacturing facility, I was kind of banging my head off the wall a lot of the times. And what we were doing is we were importing a lot of textiles from the southern states, Georgia, South Carolina, that type of thing, and bringing it into London, Ontario. Now, during seasons where the produce season in the southern states are booming, rates would go through the roof. Availability was very tough. So we needed material at a certain time, and using the brokers that we had, it was, the rates were always never consistent. The communication was fairly poor, and the transit times were never, what they said they were going to be. So, typically it's a 2-day transit if it's in the Atlanta area to get up to London, Ontario, 1 to 2 days. And oftentimes just to source a truck, I was finding that it was taking, what should take a few hours was taking a day or two type thing. So that was one of the main issues. And then the other thing is, especially when I was working in the larger brokerages, I found that customers more or less seemed to just become a number. And, we weren't getting to know what was most important to our customers and, how we could help add value to their business. So with that being said, I felt that we could add a serious improvement in service. And the biggest thing is communication, obviously. So, we don't, if we do have a problem that comes up, the first thing we do is we diagnose the situation, find a solution to that problem, and then update our customers accordingly as to what's going on. So we don't just, report to them and say, hey, look, here's the problem. And we'll let you know what happens. No, we here's what the issue is. Here's our solution. Here's when we're going to be back up and running and that kind of thing. So communication and letting our customers know that, we're there to support their business and do everything we can to do that is what we're going to do. So, it was just an overall service thing and being able to find and work with the right carriers on a regular basis is what has helped our business grow and be able to support the companies that we have in place.
We're on the transit side, transit times and things on from the southern states. Was that when you were a manufacturer? Were you going through 3PLs or freight brokers to source those trucks, or is that something that you were doing on your own?
So that company we work with now is a customer of ours now. But when I was doing it at the manufacturing facility, and dealing with the brokers we had in place, and we had like boutique brokers as well as the large ones as well. And service just wasn't there, and especially so it wasn't dedicated freight, but it was a couple times a month pulling out of Georgia, South Carolina, those types of things. And they would have to rarely was it the same carrier doing the same load twice, that kind of thing. So it was always a different driver who didn't know the specifics about the business. Like, even though we relayed the information to the broker, like if we said, the driver needs to back in from the street rather than driving in, just pulling in, then, 9 times out of 10, that information was missed from the broker relaying it to the carrier, that type of thing. So the communication and service, I can't preach that enough here. And what we do is, we really take the time, to get all the details in place for all of our customers, all of our prospects, and let them know that, we don't try and push you in one direction or the other. We'll give you our suggestions, but we certainly don't push anyone into doing things a certain way. So you tell us how you want it done. If we see a couple areas where we could add value, or we see ways to make it a little bit more efficient, we will speak up, obviously. But if we listen to what the customers and the prospects have to say, and we will get the job done exactly the way that they want to do it. And if there's any issues, we will bring it up to them right away.
Exactly. Do you find selling to Canadian companies a little bit different than U.S. companies, or is it about the same sales process?
Yeah, no, I would say that it's generally the same sales process. And a lot of companies that we still work with in Canada have, their head office or the decision makers are in the United States. So we are very familiar with both. So to be honest, I wouldn't say that there's a huge difference there.
Okay. I never found a huge difference myself. There's, I talked to a lot of Canadian companies. I did a lot of cross-border freight as a freight broker too. And there's something really nice about cross-border. Canada's a little bit generally easier than Mexico, but I did quite a bit of both. But it is a nice niche that not everyone knows about. And do you still find that that's true today, that a lot of domestic freight brokers really, that they don't know how to move goods in and out of Canada, and that's a good market to be in?
It's certainly a good market to be in. Now, I don't know if they have trouble with it necessarily. I just find that they might have trouble, doing what they say they're going to do. And from, having conversations with the shippers, they seem to get overpromised, underdelivered quite a bit. Everyone seems to have generally the same type of complaints, whether it's with a broker or an asset-based carrier. And that's, I know I keep saying this, but communication. Communication is king in this industry. And a lot of people don't like, or don't want to be able, or don't want to deliver bad news. However, as you know, we're in transportation and things happen. So, the best thing that we can do is be honest with when things don't go perfect, and make sure that we're one step ahead of it. So we have to be proactive in every aspect of our business, to keep our customers and to get new ones. And we're upfront with them when we meet with them face to face. We let them know, like, hey, look, we are in the transportation industry, and the things do go sideways at times. And every shipper receiver does know that. So we're upfront with them and just let them know our action plan when things do go, so that they know that if something does go wrong, this is how it's going to be handled. And they, they feel like they've put their business in good hands.
Yeah, I think you have a lot of inexperienced freight brokers out there who try to make sales by pretending that nothing goes wrong. But about 90% of being a freight broker is delivering bad news, because things go wrong all the time. And I used to call it my get out of jail free card, is just by communicating as fast as possible. I learned those lessons, and I started communicating as fast as possible, and it would quell the situation. And no matter what happened, as long as I communicated very quickly, things would return to normal at some point after that load, right? And hopefully that load doesn't drag on for weeks. But it was always my get out of jail free card, is what I called it.
Yeah, and on top of that, like, I was in that position too, right, where people weren't telling me the accurate information or telling me in a timely manner, and it's extremely frustrating. And you're way more willing to be accepting of the issue and understanding if you're told up front, and you're not given the runaround. That's the other thing is, we find with carriers that we use, if they don't want to work the way that we need them to in regards to proper updates, tracking information, If they get bothered by, we're very upfront with every carrier as we bring them on, letting them know our expectations. And then we do have an internal scoring system, and we do pretty well have a 2-strike rule, because I find that, and I've found that if one thing happens and then we let them know, like, look, this particular situation can't happen again, or we're going to have to suspend business. So that's what we typically do. If it happens twice, then we cut our ties with that particular carrier.
Mm-hmm. That's a good rule to go by. It is, and in developing that consistent core group of carriers is something that makes a broker sustainable over the long term. When it came to opening your doors, May of 2020, height of pandemic, the height of the pandemic, not necessarily at that time frame there, but over the last almost 2 years now, what's been kind of your biggest challenge, or your biggest success that they oftentimes go hand in hand?
Well,
or the most surprising thing that you never really knew that you needed to know, and you found out that you needed to know.
To be honest, I think that the biggest challenge, especially for the year of 2022, was hiring the right people. So that was something new to me. So I kind of learned on the fly with that, and we've got an excellent group of people working at Veteri now, that I couldn't be more proud of, that, give their best efforts day in and day out. And I'm very appreciative of that. But yeah, I would say, especially due to COVID, a lot of people didn't want to work. And people, I don't necessarily even look for people that have logistics experience. But most of the staff that's here did not prior to coming here. But hiring, I think, was the biggest learning curve for me. But as it stands right now, I couldn't be more happy with the people that we have on hand.
Well, don't feel alone in that, because I think that is a constant theme with new entrepreneurs and old entrepreneurs. It doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. Is you know how to communicate to customers, you know how to move freight, you know how to do all these things, and then other parts of the business that pop out that you don't really have any experience in. And mm-hmm. hiring the right people is one of the most important things that a business needs to operate successfully over the long term. But it is one of those things that really no one is prepared to know the process and how that works, and identify people who can pick up the right skills, because it is something that a lot of us don't have experience in.
Right. I agree with you. And I think from an operational standpoint, the biggest learning curve was building our business to the point where we can say that we're available 24/7, 365. That was one thing that I learned very quickly, is that I knew in entrepreneurship, it's going to be a 24/7 type of job anyway, with all the back end work you have to do in that. But being able to actually be there and support your customer's business, whether it's 9 a.m. on a Sunday or 6 p.m. on a Tuesday type thing, we've got to be ready. So that was mm-hmm. one thing that I took some time to get adjusted to, and building a team that we can stand on our 2 feet here and say, hey, look, if you need anything, whether it be one pallet picked up on a Sunday morning or air freight from Germany, we'll make sure that we get it done for you. So that was one of the most important things that I was looking for when looking for employees. And, I'm proud to say that we're the go-to team when you need anyone 24/7. We're available for you.
That's awesome. Well, Tom, thanks for stopping by, Put That Coffee Down today. For our audience to reach out to you, I guess LinkedIn is probably a great place to do it. What's your website?
VeteriInc.com. So,
and that's VETTORI.
Yeah, inc.com.
Yep.
And I'm on LinkedIn, and feel free to reach out to me anytime. And I certainly appreciate you having me on and taking the time to speak with me, Kevin.
You bet. Anytime, Tom. Thanks again, and have a great one.
Okay, you too. Take care. You
bet. So that was Tom Grandy. He's general manager, founder of Veteri up in Ontario, Canada. It's always interesting, working as a shipper or working in an industry, then flipping around and selling to that. It gives you a lot of great experience, a lot of great talking points, and it just builds a closer connection. I have a few audio-only podcasts out. You can go download those wherever you download. Bart DeMonk, Jason Rabin, Andy Hedrick, Reed Clements. They're all there. But that's going to wrap it for this Put That Coffee Down. See you next week.
I got friends only want to talk business. I got expensive because winning's expensive. I got expensive because winning's expensive. I've been reading all the war. And I've been shutting down the stars. Yeah,